Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, I'm going to be giving you my initial first week's thoughts on Kayo. As you saw in the thumbnail, I have played 100 games on the hero, a mix of Talishar games, but also tests like hardline testing games with some friends. And so it's like a mix of 50-50. But I just wanted to kind of give my thoughts on my list, where I'm at right now going, I guess, into pre-release and into release, like where I see the deck going. Kind of give you some additional thoughts on top of what I talked about like a couple of videos back, and maybe some things that you can think about as you're looking to build the hero. But we'll get right into it. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hopefully enjoy your stay. Feel free to check out my other videos. I'm doing a lot of Flesh and Blood content. We got some Alpha Clash stuff coming up and some other stuff, so really good time. If you are a long-standing supporter, thank you so much as always. Feel free to check out my Discord down below. I have almost 600 members in there now. It's insane, doing really well. And also, if you want to support the channel even more, I have a channel membership down below. It's basically similar to a Twitch sub, where I can use it for product giveaways and openings and events and stuff like that. And it would be really greatly appreciated. Once I move to Virginia in the coming week or two, I'll be doing a lot more streaming, so hopefully that'll help as well. But we're going to bring Kayo up here. This is the list I'm currently on. There's a whole lot I could talk about. So we'll go over the list first, and then, well, no, you know what? I'm going to do it the other way around. I'm going to talk about some learnings I've found that maybe will help you, and then build your list. And then we'll talk about, like, I guess the deck tech as a whole, right? Or at least my initial thoughts. And so as you can see here, played 100 games on the hero pretty consistently over the past week. Just above 50%, 60%. Not really, you know, nothing crazy. Not like it's like world ending. I have been swapping cards out like constantly, like absolutely constantly. And these results, some of it's Talishar, but some of it is testing against people that I trust, that are good opponents. So I think that this is a pretty decent representation, at least early on, as people are figuring out the new heroes and stuff, of where Kayo is good and bad. And what I've learned matchup wise so far is Kayo is pretty much 50-50 into everything, with the exception of like Fi and Katsu. Even though I am 2-0 against Katsu and 0-3 against Fi, those games are extremely close. It really depends on like who sees their power cards. Even though Kayo can put out insane damage, so can the ninjas. It's always going to be a problem for Brood, I think. Like every Brood's going to have a little bit of trouble with ninja. It's just how it is. Another really hard matchup, even though I'm pretty close to even with the Uziri, you really have to go fast in that matchup. You kind of have to go 60 card slick and run no fear and hope to God that they don't constantly interrupt you, because you have a lot of non-blocks in your deck. So they can disrupt you pretty easily if they're given the right cards. And then finally, the other bad matchup is Rhinar. Rhinar is really tricky because you both deal very similar damage, but he intimidates. So it makes it a little bit more difficult. You know, if you're not like super high rolling, like with Blood Rushes and going crazy, like his Blood Rush turns are better than your Blood Rush turns. They just are, because he's going to deal more damage because he's intimidating you. So it's very difficult. I'm still trying to figure that matchup out, how I'll make it better. But overall, he's 50-50 into pretty much everything, or positive. Like Kasai, most all of these games are like actual hardcore testing games, not just like random Talishar games. And I'm just barely positive in her. Victor, I've played a lot of people are trying Victor. Victor lists have gotten refined very quickly. That matchup's really good. Most of the Guardians, Kayo is either, I think, slightly favored into or even in, which is really, really nice. And then pretty much everything else I'm positive into, with the one Vincent loss. But, you know, the win-loss rate's nothing crazy. I just want to kind of give you an idea of the heroes that I've played. And overall, I think Kayo is in a pretty good spot. I think Kayo is a very powerful hero. I would put Kayo, like, he's in the meta. I just, like, similar to my tier list video that you watched the other day, I think that he's, like, you have, like, the 3 meta-defining decks, which are Bravo, Dash, and Levia. Bravo, Dash, and Levia, and I think that Kayo is, like, one step below that. So a couple learnings I've found so far. One is power cards. So Kayo's power cards are Blood Rush Bellow, which is the obvious one. Cast Bones is a very powerful card. Terra Limb from Limb is also a good power card, which I have since cut from the list. I'll talk about that in a second. And then finally, Berserk, which is not on my list. So the first thing is there's a bunch of different ways to build Kayo. There really is. You could go with a Berserk list that's very, still has decent consistency, or good consistency, but has the opportunity to go on these crazy 40, 50 damage berserk turns if you really draw into the nuts. I obviously his most consistent power card is Blood Rush Bellow. That's going to pretty much be in every single list. And then Cast Bones, I was main boarding, but now I've put into the sideboard. Is also just a nutty card that is good in pretty much any matchup that's not a straight race. So it's a very common card you're going to play. And Tearlim from Limb is kind of the weird one. So my first learning is there's a bunch of different ways you can play KO. And that sounds so cop-outy, but it's really not meant to be. I think like you could run a all gas, no brakes berserk list. You could run a very, mid-rangey Bear Fangs and, these like 2 for 8, 2 for 9s constantly until you set up Castbone plays. You could run KO kind of like fast that then can pivot. Like there's a lot of ways you can take KO. And I think that might token that KO makes most every turn is really, really good to just outvalue your opponent, which is why in the results section, that's why I've been pretty good into the Guardians, even though Guardians have all these clash cards now where they're making Vigor and Might and stuff like that and Gold, you still can outvalue them. Like even against Victor, who against me, a lot of Victors are running like a lot of the clash cards. Because of KO's ability getting +1 on the reveal, it actually makes him pretty decent on those clashes. So yeah, there's a bunch of different ways you can build him. I will say this is my opinion, and I'm not saying it's like gospel or anything, but Berserk to me is a very hard card to fully evaluate, and I actually think it's the worst power card that KO has. It 100% has the highest ceiling, even higher than Cast Bones, because Cast Bones ceiling is +6 go again. It's really, really good. Berserk has the potential to like on a good Cast Bones turn, I'll do like something for 12 go again, whatever that may be, into another go again like Wild Ride, giving it 18, maybe Claw, and then something else. Like a good Cast Bones turn nets you like 25 to 30 damage. A really good Berserk turn nets you 30, 40 damage, right? The difference with the Cast Bones turn is I can Cast Bones, and then I can play Command and Conquer. If I get the full +6 go again, you can play like Command and Conquer for 12 go again. And it's just stupid. Or Swing Big for 14 go again, right? Or Sim Packing for 12 go again, basically destroy their arsenal if it hits. So that's why Sim Mode is really good. But Berserk, it's either going to literally win you the game on the spot, or it's going to just be a card that replaces itself, because its floor is it doesn't do any. It literally does nothing. It replaces itself. It doesn't do anything. You really want to pair this with Wild Ride and Pulping to make it really, really good. You can use stuff like Beaten Trackers to make it better, but really, I found that like 9 out of 10 times I play this, and that's like I played this for like my first 30 games. It really didn't do much. It is a yellow block 3. It's nice, but it doesn't always do what you want it to do. And also, the biggest thing is, unlike Rhinar, when Rhinar plays Berserk and he does Wild Ride and the Pulping, he's now intimidated you twice, right? Berserk, you haven't intimidated them at all. So they still can block you out. And yes, if you deal 40 damage, then they only can block with so much, right? But it doesn't quite have the scariness that it does in Rhinar, because in Rhinar, they're just going to intimidate your whole hand while also dealing 30, 40 damage. So just keep that in mind. I guess the key takeaway for this is don't get trapped into Berserk, because that is a way you can build the deck. And I'm not saying it's the wrong way to build the deck, but I am saying that I think a lot of people are just going to default to Berserk, and I have found that the list is better without it. Just my opinion. Second thing is Might tokens. So KO's ability reads that when you discard a 6 or more on your turn, you create a Might token once per turn on your turn. And the reason that's important is because Might gives you very incremental value, right? Because at the start of your turn, destroy this, then your next attack gets +1. So if I Bear Fangs pitching a blue and I discard a 6, it's technically a 2-card 8, right? I did get rid of another card, but it's a 2-card 8 as far as pitch and stuff goes. And then I create another on my turn. And then let's say the next turn, I have that Might token, and I play a Swing Big. I can block with 6 cards, play Swing Big for 9. So let's talk about that. Let's just say turn 1, they play whatever you block. And then your turn 1, you play Bear Fangs, discarding a 6, and you attack for 8, right? And then on their turn, you block for 6, right? That's 14 value. And then all of a sudden, or let's say you do 8, you draw up, Then on their turn, they swing at you for whatever, you block for 6. That's now 6 value, right? Then you play swing big for 9. That's a 15 value turn cycle. And that is actually insane value. The might tokens just get you consistently good value. And when you start including attacks like Command and Conquer for 7, Sim Packing for 7, even like late game, like Swing Big for 9, Bear Fangs for 9, Pack Hunt for 7, intimidating a card out of their hand, which, you know, can be really, really good. You know, Wild Rod Go Again for 7, 2 card 7. It just, you start to create really awkward breakpoints, and the value just gets more and more, right? And if you pair that with Go Again, it gets insane. So he can outvalue opponents, even opponents that have way more armor than him and have good block values like Guardian, because of those might tokens. So you want to be trying to make might tokens as much as you can. The nuance of KO, and I'm not even quite honestly close to giving you like examples of this, but you have to know, like, when should I be setting up? What should I arsenal this card? Or is the might token worth more next turn, right? Do I arsenal that Savage Feast, or do I just play it, right? So I can get the might token and keep getting that value. There's all types of things you have to evaluate with this deck, and it's really, really good. Another thing, I've learned like staples. So like every deck should have Wild Rod. Every deck should have Bear Fangs, in my opinion. Every deck should have Swing Big. All this is obvious. A couple cool cards that I've been playing with that I'm really enjoying. One is Zealous Belting. Helps you go really wide with KO. Like playing Zealous Belting into Wild Ride and a Claw, right? You can easily do like a 14 damage 4-card hand, which is really, really good value, on top of making a might token for your next turn. So it's technically 15 value. Really, really good. Runner, I just put this in the last like 10, 15 games. This card is money. Playing this off like a Cast Bones or off when you have an agility token from Agile Windup is just insane, because like if you play Agile Windup before giving yourself an agility token on their turn because they didn't threaten a whole lot, you can play Runner for 7 or 6 Go Again and create another agility token because it has Go Again and it blocks for 3. At worst, it's a 2 for 6 that blocks 3, 2 for 7 off of might, that can potentially like have Go Again and give you another Go Again on your next turn. So I've been really enjoying this card. This card might go to a 3 of, but right now it's just a 2 of. A card that you won't see in a lot of our lists is Pack Hunt. I've been really enjoying this card because KO sometimes against Guardian, if you didn't like set up really, really well, has trouble finishing games. And like even when they're on like 1 life and you use your Reckless Swing, which I might end up going to 2 of these. Being able to do stuff like Wild Ride for 7 off a might, and you still have a Pack Hunt in your hand, and they have to block, you know, with 2 cards and equipment or even 3 cards, and then you Pack Hunt away whatever, right? It just allows you to finish the game off really, really well, especially on Blood Rush turns. Savage Feast, all these are pretty common. I'm really enjoying this. I think he's about incremental value. Blood Rush turns aren't insane, like, but the funny thing about Blood Rush is because of KO's ability to make agility tokens and be able to play cards like Wild Ride and stuff like that without impunity as much, Blood Rush turns end up being like the same damage they are with Rhinar. The only thing that you don't get is the Intimidate, but the damage, even with only 1 claw, is usually the same most of the time. I'm doing like 15 plus damage most Blood Rush turns because of agility and because of everything else. Not every turn. Some turns are just 13 damage, right? An 8 in your claw, but some turns, like I've had an agility, I played Blood Rush, I play Runner for 8 Go Again, into Claw for 5, into like a Pack Hunt, right? And I dealt more damage than most of the time Rhinar does on his turn, because a good Blood Rush turn for Rhinar is 20 damage, which is Claw, Swing Big, right? So really enjoying that. Sim Packing, if you're going to play any Brute, get this card. This is going to be the #1 card coming in this set for Brute, alongside the Arm Piece. Really, really good card. Agile Windups, I've been really enjoying these. It's good as 6 of, I think. The one thing I will say about these, when I first started playing, I was getting in the trap of using them on my turn to get an agility token, which is really nice in certain situations. The only time you really want to do that is if you have Tunic up and you can play like 2/2 cost off of blue. Like I would discard this and then play Command and Conquer for 6 or 7 if I had a might, and then Tunic, Pack Hunt. Or other way around, pack hunt, with go again for 6, intimidating a card from their hand. They might block with 1, and then you play Command and Conquer right off Tunic. That's where it's really nice. Otherwise, try to use these on your turn if you can, like the ability, because it gives you a might for your next turn and the agility token. So it really, really helps that aspect. The next thing is blues. Blues are kind of like just whatever in KO, like try your best. Reincarnate's really nice. I have 3 in the side as well for the slow matchups. Wrecker Romp's the obvious one, right? This is a good 6. Pack Call, I'm really enjoying it. Bottoming your bad cards or good cards does feel really bad, but because you're draw discarding so much in this deck, I'd much rather bottom a Blood Rush Bellow and see it later, unless it's like the aggro matchups, than get rid of it, right? Because you only have so many of these. So that's kind of where I'm at. Assault and Battery is actually pretty nice. You pitch like off if they don't threaten a lot of damage, or turn 1, this is super nice. Being able to pitch a blue, play this, discard a 6, create a might token, and you create an agility token for your next turn. I love seeing this turn 1. Reincarnate, obviously. Savage Swing I have in here. This is the flex blue slot. I'm still playing with different ones. I do like the fact that off Tunic on Blood Rushes, like if I draw into 2 blues and it just feels bad, like maybe I pitch a blue to play Blood Rush and I draw into and I had to block with a few cards the turn before, and I draw into like a Savage Swing and a Wrecker Romp, right? Just feels really bad, right? At least I can claw for 5 with my 2 floating, Tunic, and then play Savage Swing for 7, right? You at least have that opportunity. So I do like the lower cost value, even if it does mean discarding a card, which you still make a might token from. And then finally, Reckless Swing. I want to put 2 of these in my deck. I'm probably going to end up doing it. I have one off this card so much right now, like every brute. It's really, really nice. I may put 1 more in the sideboard just to have for the Guardian matchups, but that's kind of it. So the deck is all about creating those might tokens, getting that incremental value, having these pop-off turns with Blood Rush Bellow and with Cast Bones, and then also using go-wide stuff like Wild Ride, Zealous Belting, Runner when it has an agility, creating more agility. Like you're wanting to go as wide as you can. And I'd say when the deck is humming and not interrupted at all, or it's just a straight race, this deck can easily deal like 14 damage a turn. Like I said in my other video, the one stat I keep track on Talishar is like average value per turn, which is block plus damage. And I'd say on Katsu, my average value per turn on good games is like 11, 12, 10 to 12. On this deck, I hit 14 to 15 value per turn a lot. And like my bad games, air quotes, is like 13 value per turn. So his value is just insane. He's not as prone to fatigue as I thought he was. I thought he was going to be really prone, so it hasn't ended up that way. I will say he's a skill-intensive deck, and this is not to like showboat whatsoever. I'm saying this for a reason. Do not get discouraged with KO if you're not winning. My deck, it's not world ending. It's not like I have a 90% win rate, but like I have a 61% win rate, right? And this is a mix of Talishar games, but also like actual testing. The KO deck that I released a couple days ago, 37% win rate. I only showed this like Kasai. Look at Kasai. It's 5-17 against Kasai. My list is 7-5, right? I'm saying this for a reason. Like, don't get discouraged at KO. You really need to think about how do you... It's similar to like Azalea, in my opinion, where you have to have a game plan into every single hero. Like, what do you value most? Do you value Arslan? Do you not value Arslan? Do you want to keep creating consistent might tokens because you have to get the value? Do you have to set up? All that stuff, right? You have to keep that in mind when you're playing this deck. But the deck's very powerful. I think it's an irrelevant spot in the meta. For my sideboard, I'm still playing around with stuff. I basically was at 60 cards, but now I'm at a 54 card core. This is where I run everything. And then I basically go in from an aggro package to a slower package. So I realized like cards like Cast Bones against Katsu and Phi, yeah, if you see it turn 1 or if they have an off turn, sure, it's really good to set up, but really this card can actually hurt you really bad in those matchups. So I took it out for that. This is ran into like Guardian, into other brutes like Levia, not in Reinhardt, but in Levia. It's really good into any deck that is not just going to straight race you. I'll run into Uziri, stuff like that. I basically have an aggro package and a slow package. My aggro package typically is pulping, And always, like, if I don't think they're going to run a lot of D-Reacts or I don't think they're going to be setting up for D-Reacts, I can, risk pulping, because pulping is a risky card. If they have a D-React in Arsenal, they just blow you out, right? You don't want to lead with this card ever. I actually want to play this card after a go again most of the time if I can help it. But pulping's usually in that. I put in beaten trackers into the super fast matchups like Katsu, Kano, Phi, even Reinar. Sometimes I will if I know it's like a really aggressive Reinar, which once someone on our group has aggressive Reinar. Erase Face is my other 6 that I put into a lot of the fast matchups. Just really good into a lot of decks right now. Really good into Phi, obviously. Good into Dromai. Good into Prism, but depending on the time frame what she's playing. It's even good in a decks like Uziri because she can't use Shred and can't use Black Tech Whispers or anything like that. Good into Arachne, can't use like all that stuff. So it has some more use cases than you think it does. And then the slower matchups, I'm running cards like Cast Bones for setup for against the Guardians, along with Fate Foreseen. And then No Fear is a card I'm using in any deck that has Dominate or like, so Kano I use this in. I use this in Azalea. I'll use this in Victor because sometimes it's just really nice. This is amazing in Uziri. You ever want to piss a Uziri off? Let them Codex you, and then you play No Fear, banishing 3 cards. And they cry because you're gonna block 5 damage. So if they gotta leave no witness, then it doesn't hit. They can pop they can pop flick knives, but like, do they want to do that? Especially early game, if you can force them to, it's really, really funny. Or if they play something like a surgical extraction on you, just play No Fear. And it's like, okay, even if it hits, I don't care. Super, super funny card. And then Reincarnate also comes in. I just have 3 more in the slow matchups again. So like against Guardian, I'll run Fate Foreseen, Reincarnate, Cast Bones, and then depending on the Guardian, I'll run No Fear. I don't run against Betsy, but I do run it against Bravo and Victor. So I'll go up to like 69 cards. In the fast matchups, I usually go into Pulping and then either Fate Foreseen or Erase Face. And then I have AB3 for Kano just because I have the slots for it, so why not? But yeah, super happy with the list so far. I think KO's in a good spot. I'm very happy. Like, it's super fun. I can't wait to play him in paper. It's a deck that like has a lot of like, a lot of moving parts. Like, I forgot the word for it, but basically where you're like using your hands a lot. Like, that's why I like Azalea. You're drawing cards, you're revealing, you're flipping, you're doing all this other cool stuff. And I like decks that are very like, very interactive in that sense. So I'm super excited to play him in paper. So let me know what your thoughts are on the hero. I'd love to hear it. I'm going to keep doing like weekly updates like this. Maybe not every week, but every other week I'll try to, because I think this is the hero other than Katsu that I can always fall back on. I think this is a hero going to heavy hitters I'm going to really play and grind out and try to make better. But I'm really excited where he is. The last thing is, when it comes to the brutes, I think all 3 brutes are better into different things. I think if we get into a meta where there's a lot of defense reactions and a lot of like fatigue, Reinhar's the best brute, right? Because he can intimidate it away. I think if we're in like this mid-range meta where you're not sure what to tech into because there's a bunch of different decks, like right now, I think that Kayo is the best because he just does well into pretty much everything. And then Levi, I think, is honestly the best brute, but she's just, the player base isn't there. They're not playing her. So I hope she is. I hope she ends up being played more. But yeah, overall, really enjoying the list. Definitely give it a try. Be patient with it. Learn it. It's very old school Walk on a Race style Flesh and Blood where you have to evaluate the value of what you're doing. Sounds so redundant, but it's true. Let me know what you think of the list. Hopefully y'all are staying safe, staying happy. Hopefully you're enjoying the new set as it's coming out. Good luck on your pre-releases this weekend. I'm going to one. I unfortunately lost my job this week. I got laid off. So my last week is next week. So that's fun, but we keep going. So I don't have a lot of like time. I'm moving to Virginia next Friday. So I don't have a lot of time to like go to a bunch of pre-releases, but I am going to one. Shout out to my boy Breezy Parker. He ended up helping me out with one pre-release without me asking. If you're watching this, Parker, you're a real homie. Super fun. So I'll get to go to one. That'll be really fun. But But after that, I'll be excited for the release. I'm probably not going to buy a bunch of boxes initially just until I find a stable job, but I am going to get because all these cards I have to get, the only pricey one I see being like a big deal is this one might be like $20-$30, and then sim packing I think will come in at like 10 a piece maybe. But other than that, I don't think these cards are going to be super expensive to get. Like I don't see cast bones being above $5. So super excited about that. But yeah, let me know what you think. Y'all stay safe. Y'all stay happy. If you like this type of content, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. If not me, it's totally fine. There's a lot of creators making some cool stuff with this set release. Arsenal Pass just did an amazing limited set review. Team Runaways just did a podcast on their thoughts on the meta and the new heroes. That was really nice to listen to. There's so many cool people doing cool content, so definitely check them out. And yeah, I'll see y'all next time on TCG Talk.